Mark here from newhometricks.com. Today I want to run through how we got on setting up our new Ring Video Doorbell Pro. Now, as mentioned in the unboxing video, Ring market the Pro version of their doorbell as a wired-only doorbell unit. The idea being really that you can simply remove the old doorbell from the front of your house, replace it with the Ring Video Doorbell Pro, and you're good to go. Now, it's not quite as simple as that because you need to make sure that you get enough power to the Doorbell Pro unit. And a lot of transformer power supplies for standard doorbells don't provide enough power. So a little bit of extra work is required inside the house. Plus, your existing internal door chime will be part of that wiring, and you'll need to install a little bit of a bypass cable. Ring provide that in the kit, so there's a little bit of extra work inside the house to do. In our case, there was a little bit of extra work to do because we don't actually have, or didn't have previously, a standard doorbell. We actually had an intercom system. That's because we don't actually have a front door, we have a side door. At the front of the house there's actually a gate that you have to come through in order to access the front door. And at the front gate we had an intercom system. There was a little speakerphone unit with a buzzer that you could push on it, and then you could talk to whoever was calling at your home through that intercom system. It was also faulty, wasn't working. We could hear the person at the front gate, but they couldn't hear us. So it was time to basically replace that whole thing. We needed to remove the speakerphone unit on the front gate. We needed to replace the power supply internally, so there was a lot of work to do. So first step was to remove the old kit. In a cupboard in the kitchen, we had the power supply transformer for the intercom system. That only provided 12 volts AC, so we couldn't carry on using that. We had to replace it. Thankfully, as you saw during the unboxing video, Ring provide a transformer power supply in the kit, at least for the EU version of the kit. I gather it might be different for the US version. So we had to install that, so we got a little housing, a little box for that power supply to go into. We were able to rip out a lot of the old stuff and replace it with nice new stuff, so that was all sorted out. We then had to replace the wiring that ran down the side of the house to the front gate, ripped all of that out, and installed a new cable. We actually used a network cable and used a couple of the wires inside the network cable to provide power down the side of the house, drilled a hole through the wooden panel at the side of the gate so that we could run the cables through, and then we were able to actually install physically the Ring doorbell and attach the wiring to the two terminals on the back. It was then a simple matter of screwing the Ring Video Doorbell into the wooden panel at the side of the gate and powering on. Now when you do that, when you switch on the power, what will happen is the Ring doorbell will actually start speaking to you, telling you that it's ready for setup, and advising you that what you need to do next is launch the app and run the in-app setup.
Okay, so with the wiring done, we can now move on to the actual software portion of setup. So I've already downloaded the Ring app, which should walk us through the process. So I'm going to launch the Ring app now. Okay, so it starts playing a little video, and I'm going to go ahead and tap on Set Up a Device. No, we don't have a login yet. And so it's asking us to provide some sign-in information. So I'm just going to skip through this process, and then we'll be able to move on to the next stage. But obviously I'm going to put in my name, phone number, and change the location to United Kingdom. And then obviously there's privacy and terms of service guidelines to agree to before we move on to the next step. Okay, so the next step is it wants me to provide email address and of course a password. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Again, I'm just going to skip over that process, of course, for privacy reasons. Okay, so now it's asking me what device I'm setting up, and it lists all of the different devices that are available from Ring. Their regular doorbell, the new doorbell 2, but we're setting up a Ring Video Doorbell 2, so I'm going to tap on that. Okay, so it now asks us to give the device a name. What would you like to name this Ring Doorbell Pro? Front door, back door, office, or custom? I'm going to go ahead and say I'm just going to give it a custom name, and I'm going to call this Front Gate, since this is where the device is being installed for us. So I'll say Front Gate, and then tap Continue. And then we move on to the next stage, and it says we're being asked for location. To confirm the location. So again, I'm going to skip over this process for privacy reasons, and then we'll proceed on to the next step. Okay, so we've completed the confirmation of the location, and it also allowed me to put my address details in manually, which I was able to do. And now it's suggesting that we set up the Ring Video Doorbell Pro and complete the physical installation. I've already actually done this, but it does helpfully offer you a physical installation video that you can play inside the app. in order to proceed with that. But we're just going to go ahead and skip over. So I'm going to say continue. Okay, so now it wants me to press and release the small button on the side of the Ring Video Doorbell. I think that what this is actually going to do is start going through the kind of network setup process. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll proceed on. Okay, so I have now pressed the button on the side of the doorbell, and the doorbell actually announces that it's in setup mode. So I'm going to press the continue button to carry on. Okay, so this is a fairly familiar process in as much that we need to leave the Ring app and switch over to a Wi-Fi network that has been temporarily created by the device itself. Now what that's going to mean is that I'm going to lose my ability to screen mirror temporarily, so I'm guessing that what's going to happen now is I'm going to connect to that network. Then I'm going to need to provide the Wi-Fi details of my home network, and then we can continue on, so I'll do that now. Okay, so we set up the Wi-Fi and it did indeed ask for the details of our wireless network, connected, and now we're back at the back in the app. And as you can see in the main screen, it shows our device here, front gate, and if I tap on that, it goes through to the status screen where you can make changes, check the device health, look at other settings, etc. Now what I want to do next is set up the Chime Pro. If you remember in the unboxing video that we did, we have a Chime Pro configured, so I'd like to go ahead and add that next. Okay, so we've plugged the Chime Pro into a power outlet, and the next step here in the app is to tap on Set up a device, and again it gives us the list of Ring devices that we can choose from. You can filter this by tapping on the relevant section on the top, so I'll just tap on Chimes and then tap on Chime Pro. Then it asks us to plug it in, which we've done, so we'll say continue. And then it asks us to give the device a name. So I'm going to tap on downstairs, since this is where we have plugged it in. Okay, so now it says wait about 15 seconds for your Chime Pro to enter setup mode. So I think that will be indicated by the blue light on the front of the device flashing, and then we tap continue. And once again we have the same deal as we did with the previous device, that we have to connect directly to the device over a temporary Wi-Fi network that it configures, give it the Wi-Fi settings, and then proceed on. So I'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, so as expected, we connected directly over Wi-Fi to the Chime Pro and entered the Wi-Fi details for our home network. Now it's telling us congratulations, setup is complete, so we press continue. And it's asking us to link this to one of our actual doorbells, so we can go ahead and turn on ring alerts for the Chime Pro. I don't think we're going to want motion alerts for this. We don't necessarily want the doorbell to ring every time somebody walks past the door. We sometimes have like a postman walk by, that kind of thing, so possibly not. And then we're going to tap on connect to Chime Pro. Okay, it says front gate has a good connection to your Wi-Fi network. Are you sure you'd like to proceed? So I'm going to say yes. Oh, okay, and now we need to put the doorbell back into setup mode. So we're going to go ahead and do that now and then get that all sorted out.
Okay, so it's at this point that we ran into a bit of a problem. What we wanted to do was go down and press the setup button on the side of the Ring Video Doorbell Pro in order to put it back into network setup mode so we could join it onto the Chime Pro repeater. And when I did that, when I pressed the button, a voice came through the Ring Video Doorbell speaker telling me that it was currently updating its internal software. Basically, it was doing a firmware update, and to try again after the light on the front of the Ring doorbell had stopped flashing. And there was no flashing light, so there was no real feedback there to actually tell me whether the firmware update was progressing or not, but a firmware update sounds like a good idea, so I waited and came back and tried again later after about 5 minutes. Same message. Waited another 5 minutes, tried again, same message. Kept on doing this and trying again, pressing the setup button for several times, and it didn't seem to do anything. So we just left it for a while, came back about 20-30 minutes later, and it was still in the same condition. Now, our concern at this point was that it had just about managed to maybe get onto the wireless network, sufficient for it to proceed through setup, as we saw, but not quite getting enough of a signal to properly download the firmware update, and that it had gotten stuck, waiting for the download to complete. So we had to kind of make a choice at this point. Cutting the power to a device whilst it's doing a firmware update is a bit of a risky thing to do, because it could potentially break the device. It might not boot up again. But we decided to go ahead and chance it, and thankfully it did boot back up properly. At that point, we were then able to put it into setup mode by pressing the button on the side and carry on with running through the Chime Pro setup and joining the Ring Video Doorbell Pro to the Chime Pro.
Okay, so we had a few issues there getting the doorbell actually linked up to the Chime Pro, but we have now managed to resolve that. It is connected, and now, as you can see, you get the option to choose whether you want ring alerts or motion alerts, or both, to sound on the Chime Pro. You get a little bit of summary here on the signal strength, and if I go back to the main screen here, I can tap on the device health icon and get a little bit of an overview of the wireless signal strength that the Chime Pro is receiving, and how strong a connection the connected devices, in this case our front gate doorbell, actually has through to the Chime Pro. Remember, this is effectively a wireless repeater. So that's all now set up. If I go into the main doorbell screen itself, you get a similar set of settings here. You can also see the device health. You can get an overview of the configuration. So there's a variety of different things that you can see here. Fairly straightforward. So it's time now to sort of start to get to grips with this and see how this all works in practice. So let's carry on and have a little bit of an overview of our first impressions.
Okay, so now that we've got the Ring Video Doorbell Pro set up, I just want to run through a few kind of first impressions of the device so far. First, let's start with build quality and visual appearance. It feels really well built and well made as a device. Visually, it looks nice as a doorbell. On our front gate, it would look great next to your door. The fact that they include 4 different faceplates is really nice as well. It's very straightforward to swap those out. There's a little security screw to hold the faceplate in place, but once you remove the security screw, you can easily pop the plate off and then switch it out for a different one. So regardless of what kind of look you're going for, you can hopefully match that to the front of your home. It's also not too large, but it's not so small that it would be easy to miss. Of course, anybody that's coming to your door, you want them to notice the doorbell and to press that rather than knocking on your door. You want them to press the doorbell. So that's pretty good. And it's nice that when a caller presses the doorbell, they get a little bit of audible feedback, in as much that they hear a chime produced from the little speaker inside the Ring Video Doorbell. So it's not one of those situations where somebody presses the doorbell and they're not going to be sure whether or not it's rung inside the home. They're getting a bit of feedback themselves as well that it has actually worked. Second thing I want to talk about is lag and network performance. This is something that we heard quite a lot about during my research into what doorbell to get. There was lots of different reviews out there of the Ring Video Doorbell and Doorbell Pro, and many of them made mention of lag. That is, that there was a delay between somebody pressing the button on the doorbell and you receiving the notification on your phone. Now, obviously, there's a lot of things that come into play here besides the device itself and the Ring service. You've got to think about your wireless signal. Do you have a good wireless coverage where the Ring doorbell is situated? Do you have a good internet connection, and are you fairly free from congested internet conditions? What about your smartphone? Does it have a good internet connection? Or if the smartphone is on wireless, is it a good wireless signal? So there's a lot of things that come into play here, but nevertheless, many people did complain about this issue in some of the reviews. Some were better than others. Our experience so far, I have to say, is fairly mixed, and our overall network performance experience with just the initial playing around with the device is a little bit hit and miss. Sometimes when we would try and initiate what they call live view, which is where you can just activate the camera on the front of the Ring Video Doorbell without anybody having to press the doorbell button first, sometimes it would not connect at all, and other times we'd be getting a connection but the video would seem to freeze. Now, obviously we're using the Chime Pro to try and boost the signal to where the doorbell is located. But nevertheless, the Chime Pro is inside and the doorbell is outside, and sometimes wireless signals have a bit of difficulty penetrating thick walls such as the outer walls of a home. So we're going to have a play around moving the Chime Pro around to different locations, see if we can get better conditions. We've already moved it from the hallway into the kitchen in a position where it's closer to the Ring doorbell, and that has made a little bit of a difference. So we're going to carry on having a play around with it and see if we can make the situation better. Obviously you need to have good wireless coverage to where the doorbell is, or it's just not going to work very well. So that's something that I'm not going to form judgment on right away, but I will come back to you on that one and letting you know how it works out. The third thing that I want to mention is the speaker. This is one where I can give you a very positive report. Again, some of the reviews that I'd seen of the Ring Video Doorbell Pro online made mention of very, very quiet speaker built into the doorbell device itself. Obviously, you want someone that's calling your home to actually be able to hear you. And some reviews even said that people had to lean in to the doorbell in order to hear them speaking. So obviously that's not very good. That's not been my experience at all. I'm finding that the volume on the Ring Video Doorbell Pro is really good. I can easily and clearly hear the person on the other end speaking. It really doesn't seem to be a problem for me. Now, maybe Ring have changed the speaker that they built into this. I'm certainly not casting aspersions on any of those other reviews out there. It's just not been my experience so far testing this out. You can easily hear the speaker. It's not a problem at all. And I didn't have to lean in or anything like that. So it's entirely possible that Ring have simply put a more powerful speaker into the Ring Video Doorbell Pro. That being the case, that's great. You can go ahead and buy this with confidence that that's not going to be a problem. But for those people that already have it, I'm not sure what to say about that. Like I say, maybe Ring have changed the speaker that they put in there. I don't know that this is a new generation or a second generation. They're not marketing it as Ring Video Doorbell Pro 2 or anything like that. But nevertheless, it doesn't seem to be a problem for me. The next thing I want to mention is night vision performance. We have had an opportunity to have a look at this at night, and it's really good. The infrared LEDs that are built into the thing seem to be powerful enough to illuminate the area around our front gate quite nicely, and you can even see the background street. You can see everything very clearly. So it's not a problem at all at night. Night vision performance is very good. The last thing I want to mention is just another setup niggle that we had. As mentioned, we had issues getting the firmware update to complete whilst we were in the middle of setting up the Chime Pro. But another niggle that we had before we got to the Chime Pro was power supply issues. After we'd gotten the Ring Video Doorbell Pro set up, we of course wanted to have a test of it, make sure it was working. We couldn't get the video to connect, it wasn't working. We kind of figured at first that maybe the problem was a poor wireless signal, and indeed you can go into the device health view and see the status of the wireless connection. And it didn't seem to be that great, but on the same screen it also tells you whether you've got sufficient power being supplied to the doorbell. And it was saying that there wasn't sufficient power. It was saying that the power status was poor, which was concerning to us because we'd used Ring's own power supply that they ship with the device. We weren't using a third-party power supply, we weren't trying to use an existing power supply that we had, we'd used Ring Pro's own supply. And when you tap on the power information in the device health view, it changes from giving you its summary assessment to showing you exactly how many millivolts are being supplied to the device. And it was showing us just under 3.9 volts, which was obviously not sufficient because the information that is given in all of Ring's support information, all of their setup manuals, is that you need at least 16 volts AC to be supplied in order for it to work. So less than 3.9 didn't seem right. But over the next few hours, the power being reported in the health status slowly climbed. It reached 3.9, then it went to 4, then 4.1, 4.2, and eventually 4.3 and above. So that was an interesting thing to see happen, that it would slowly climb over the course of several hours. And as it did so, the assessment that the health screen changed as well, from poor to good and now very good. But still, this is quite confusing to us because according to all the support information, you need 16 volts AC. The power supply that Ring ship is a 24 volt AC transformer, and yet 4.3 volts is being described as very good in the app. I'm not sure which one is right. Now, if the app is correct and 4.3 volts is very good and that's fine, well, great, that's not a problem. But if the support information online is correct and you need to be getting at least 16 volts to it, then maybe there's something wrong. I don't know. It's just confusing that we're getting an assessment that 4.3 volts is fine when that doesn't necessarily seem to match up with the information on the Ring website. We got the multimeter out, we tested at the terminals, we're definitely getting the 24 volts AC supplied down to the device. So why it's being reported differently inside the app, not sure, but at least it's saying it's very good. Apparently that's fine. The device seems to be working okay. As I say, a little bit hit and miss on the wireless performance at the moment, getting the video to connect, but that's something we're going to play around with, see if we can get our wireless network to work better. So far, I have to say the experience has been generally okay. The only other issue that we had is that the chime that's supplied in the Ring Pro kit had a little bit of a faulty adapter. As you saw during the unboxing, the chime doesn't actually come with a plug directly attached to it. It comes with several different plugs and you can just snap the relevant one into place for the country in which you live. We use a UK power supply and the UK adapter was broken. One of the pins was not properly welded down. I have to say the experience that we had dealing with Ring's support team was excellent. It was a Saturday afternoon and we sent them a message via the Ring app. They responded very promptly. We explained the issue to them. They asked us for our details, where they could send a replacement part, and they were telling us, you know, same day they were coming back to us and saying that the replacement part had been earmarked for shipping. So I have to say, really good support. I can't criticise them in that regard. You know, faulty parts happen. It's a thing. So even though it's just a little bit disappointing that we weren't able to get everything set up, the experience of dealing with the support team was excellent. I can't fault them at all in that regard. That is just how it should be. So great experience with the support team. Now, that's me done for the setup side of things. Obviously, we need to live with this for a little while, see how it works in practice, wait for a real-life actual caller to come to our door and see if it all works properly. We'll obviously get back to you with our experience. I will do another video soon running through the full user interface of the app. I want to have a play around with motion detection, things like that. But in the meantime, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.
For more information on how we got on with our Ring Video Doorbell Pro setup, check out our companion blog post. That's linked to in the description below, or have a look on the website newhometricks.com.